Something deep inside our subconsciousness may reveal the most unfathomable truth about our world. Buckle up. Today, we will talk about a mysterious comic book. This comic book contains prophecies that have been fulfilled one after another. The author of this comic book is a Japanese female cartoonist, Ryo Tatsuki. She was born in 1954, and now she is 68 years old. She drew her comic books between 1975 and 1999. The last book she drew was The Future I Saw, and then she quit and lived in seclusion. 12 years after that, which was 2011, the book became a major hit. She was not well known before, but her comic book suddenly became very famous in 2011. Check out the cover of this book in 1999. You can see a few cards showing predictions of some events and dates. Every event on these cards came true in life, one after another. One of which was saying, a big disaster will happen on March 11, 2011. And shockingly enough, on March 11, 2011, a catastrophic earthquake and tsunami happened in Japan. It was the largest earthquake in the history of Japan, causing nearly 20,000 deaths, over 6,000 wounded, and 2,556 people missing. But guess what? This cover was made in 1999. Because the prophecy on the cover was fulfilled, this book suddenly became famous in 2011. However, it was already discontinued in 1999. So many people were searching for copies of this book on the market, and the price of this book rose to $2,000 per copy. Why did so many people want this book? Not only because it predicted this disaster in Japan accurately, but it also predicted other 15 events. So everyone was eager to find out what the other 15 prophecies were and whether they would also be fulfilled. But the book was already discontinued, and it was not a famous book, so there were not many copies sold in the first place, so it was hard to find. Counterfeit copies of this book started to emerge. Some people even impersonated the author online and replied to the fans in her name. One of the fake authors even received an interview from the media, so the actual author decided to no longer remain silent. In October of 2021, which was last year, she contacted the publisher and released the full version of her comic book, The Future I Saw. If you are wondering why there is a full version, here is why. Since 1999, she came up with some new prophecies, so she added those in the latest book and called it the full version. Since the book was released, it has been the bestseller on Amazon in Japan, and this book is not available in other parts of the world yet. Without further ado, let's see what's inside the full edition. Most comic books come in series, but this book has only one issue. The protagonist of this book was the author herself, Ryo Tatsuki. She started the book by saying, "I'm not a psychic, but I saw the future." The content of the book was very straightforward. It was about sharing with her friends her own dreams, which came true one after another. So the book was just describing her own personal dreams. In 1976, when she was 22 years old, she started documenting her dreams. She called them Diaries of My Dreams. When she first started to keep a diary, she had no idea these were future predictions. As she was trying to write her comic books, these dreams were an inspiration. To her surprise, later, these dreams came true one after another. Basically, this book organized 15 dreams of hers. The fact that she documented her dreams and the dates of the dreams made her predictions even more spookily accurate. The most famous one was the earthquake and tsunami in Japan on March 11, 2011. She saw the earthquake and tsunami in the dream, and she saw her face was injured during the earthquake. According to her diaries, she had this dream on March 11, 1996. After 15 years, the largest tsunami and earthquake in Japan's history occurred. Even the date matched precisely. But in her dreams, she didn't see the exact location of the earthquake. All she saw in her dream was the time. Many people could dream about dates and the time. They either saw it on a watch or in a newspaper. When people were in a dream, they didn't know how they got there or when the dream started. They already possessed some information in their mind, and they naturally accepted it. Even though this information might seem bizarre after they wake up, they would still accept it during the dream. After she woke up, she wrote in her diary, March 11, 2011, big disaster. She had the same dream later in 2006, but this time she saw the rough location, the eastern area of Japan. So she added this detail in her diary too. Unfortunately, the book was already published in 1999. She had no intention of republishing the book in 2006, so she just updated her diary. Who would have thought that her dream would come true after merely 5 years? The earthquake and tsunami happened in the eastern area of Japan and caused over 20,000 deaths. Besides this, she had many other dreams that came true. One of her earliest prediction dreams was in November of 1976, and she was watching TV in her dream. She saw that the main singer of the rock band Queen, Freddie Mercury, had died of a disease. She didn't know the time of his death. All she saw in the dream was that the news on the TV had reported his death. And 10 years after that, on November 28, 1986, she dreamed of the rock band Queen again. All the members of the band were there except the main singer. Then she remembered she had that same dream before. In real life, after another 5 years, on November 24, 1991, the main singer of Queen, Freddie Mercury, died of illness. This event also occurred 15 years after she had that first prediction dream. These two prediction dreams had several things in common. First, they were actual historical events. Second, they both came true 15 years after her dreams, and she had the same dreams again 10 years after her initial dreams. One prophecy dream she had was the death of Princess Diana. She had that dream on August 31, 1992, but Princess Diana died on August 31, 1997, 5 years apart. Another dream she had was on April 25, 1982. She dreamed a rock star died in Japan. She saw his face in the dream, but she didn't know who that person was yet. And 10 years after her dream, on April 25, 1992, Ozaki Utaka, the famous Japanese rock star, died at the age of 26. Ozaki Utaka started his singing career in 1983, while she had the dream in 1982. No wonder she didn't recognize him at that moment, as this rock star died 10 years after her dream. Did it indicate a pattern that her dreams would come true after 5, 10, or 15 years? Was this always true for all her dreams? Not exactly. She had 3 consecutive dreams on January 2nd of 1995. The first dream was that the ground cracked in Kobe City, which is part of the Hanshin area of Japan. Only 15 days after this dream, on January 17th, the Hanshin earthquake happened. The second dream was that she quit writing comic books in 2000. In reality, she retired in 1999. As this was a personal event, it was less significant for us to consider. The third dream, though, was quite spooky. She dreamed of an unknown virus hitting the mainland of Japan, causing a widespread plague. So she wrote this dream in her book too, and that also came true. In 2020, the global pandemic occurred. In her dream, she saw that the plague slowly disappeared after reaching its peak in the April of 2020. Considering what has happened after 2020, this prediction does match with reality very well. She also dreamed that the plague would come back again in 10 years, which is 2030. We don't know if this is true yet, but we will soon find out in a few years. Because of the prediction of the global pandemic in 2020, she was famous again, as all of these prophecies were in her comic book in 1999. Up until now, there were 3 of her dreams which have not happened in real life yet. She had one dream in the summer of 1981. She forgot the exact date. Why didn't she document her dream's exact date? Because it was not until after 1981 that she realized her dreams seemed to make sense in real life. Then she started to document the date of her dreams afterward. She dreamed that around 5 a.m. in the morning, a tsunami occurred in Yokohama, a city in Japan. She woke up the moment that tsunami arrived, so she quickly wrote it down. But many years passed, and this dream never came true yet. Another dream that didn't come true yet was one she had on August 20th, 1991. She dreamed that the volcano inside Mount Fuji erupted, but she didn't know when this would happen. Although Mount Fuji is a quiet and beautiful place for tourism, it used to be a very active volcano. According to the existing historical documentation, Fuji erupted 17 times before 1707, nearly once every 50 years. Now it has been sitting there quietly for over 300 years. Many people fear that it is the calm before the storm. If it happens, it is going to be devastating. The volcanic ash will pollute the air for years, plants will die, public systems will be paralyzed, the ecosystem will be destroyed, people will have no food nor water, they will have nothing to live on. This is definitely a big deal and concerns thousands of millions of people. And finally, a dream of hers which did not come true yet was her own funeral. In her dream, she saw her funeral was on July 15th, but she didn't know the year. It's worth mentioning that the cover of this book showed a girl covering her left eye with a hand. It had a special meaning. In many artworks or stories, both in the West and the East, the authors thought that the vision seen by the left eye was the past, while the vision seen by the right eye was the future. That's why the girl covered her left eye and only showed the right eye, to indicate she saw the future. Her right eye had tears because the future she saw was bleak. The book's cover has been modified slightly in the 2021 full edition. The old cover contained 1999, but it was removed in the new cover. The author probably wanted to express the idea that this new book had more information even after 1999, all the way up to her own death. Another change was her palmistry. The author claimed her palmistry changed as she grew older, so she simply updated the cover according to her latest palmistry. Moreover, you may notice that the tears in her eyes were gone, as did the wound on her face. Remember when she had that March 11th earthquake prediction dream? She saw her face injured during the earthquake. But in reality, her face was never wounded, so she updated this in this latest cover. Finally, here is another update. She said another big disaster may happen in July of 2025. Remember Ryo Tatsuki initially stopped writing comic books in 1999. Not long after she quit, she had a terrible dream on July 5th. In her dream, she felt weightless, as if her spirit was out of her body. She saw a big band between the Sea of Japan and the Philippines. It even created a gap in the seabed and generated tsunami hundreds of feet high. She dreamed about this event again on July 5, 2021. In this dream, she saw the time of the event, which was July 2025. Ryo Tatsuki started to feel that this was somehow related to her own funeral. She might die in this disaster, and her funeral will be held on July 15, 2025.